2008, Nepal became a federal republic after 239 years of Hindu monarchy and 10 years of a Maoist rebellion held by Prachanda, the fierce one. The balance was 13,000 victims and much more cases of torture, forced disappearances, and other human rights violations. In August 2008, the Constitutional Assembly, mostly Maoist since the elections of April, elected Prachanda as Prime Minister. Among the many problems still to be solved in the new Nepal, gender, caste, ethnic-based discriminations and impunity have to be eradicated. Untouchability, so hard in the countryside, was part of the cause espoused by the Maoist People's War. Even though the caste system has been officially abolished, Dalits, representing 30% of the population, are still socially excluded in practice. Half of them are living in poverty, and 90% of the Dalit women are illiterate.
A Dalit woman, illiterate Dalit woman in Jajarkot, can she go to the police station and ask for service and help? Or can she go and talk to the Brahmin male teacher in the school and complain that her children have been mistreated by the teacher? I doubt. And that is the kind of change that will have to happen. Without that, I don't think the new Nepal will look much different from the old Nepal.
You know, if you are Dalit, if you are occupational caste, occupational means tailor, cobbler, goldsmith, blacksmith, you know, they are treated as untouchable because they don't have allowed to go to the in the temple, you know, tea shop and other public place, you know, water tap, and they are discriminated in the public place. I came from that part, and I did I did the big struggle to become a leader as a national level from the Dalit committee. If you talk about the Dalits of Nepal, if you talk about the indigenous Janjati people, Madhesi peoples, and women and other religious minority people, the situation is not changed in favor of those groups who are excluded. Now we able to establish the Dalit women issue in national level. This is the agenda, but still Dalit women are very, very, very marginalized.
Civil society organizations and human rights defenders have played a big role in the change of the regime. For that, many of them have been facing threats, harassment, torture, and exile. Sushil Piakurel was member of the National Human Rights Commission, the official institution in charge of monitoring abuses. Protection International has been working with him since 2004, when this association started its activities in Nepal, providing protection strategies for human rights defenders at risk.
The king took over on 1st of February. Then I criticized the king's step on 3rd of February. And then they put restriction on my movement, though I was commissioner. And the same time in February 2nd week, they distributed arms to some vigilante group in southwest of Nepal called Kapilvastu. And these people burned a village. In the name of that, people are giving shelter to Maoists. So I was trying to go there for investigation, monitoring. They returned me back from airport. I tried twice, and then I tried to go by land route. They returned me. So they said me that you cannot go outside the Kathmandu Valley. Then also the army were talking to me. They were saying that, you are, sometimes they were sending messages to me that, I am moused in the commission.
Dinesh Prasain is a former coordinator of the Collective Campaign for Peace, a network of 44 human rights and peace organizations which stayed active inside and outside the country during the events of 2005 and 2006.
There was this rumor from a quite well-placed source that the Nepal army was not satisfied with our work. Our argument had been, as long as there is an accountable government, legitimate government, there will be no human rights. That meant we wanted a change in the regime, that a piece of legislation here, a piece of legislation there, under a dictatorship, under an unaccountable king, would not help. So I knew about the coup, that something was going to happen very early in the morning of February 1, like many other people. So my wife and myself, we walked out of home, went inside the UN, and from there we watched the television, the royal address.
There was a lots of army's vehicles in the street. It was so surprise for me, because Nepali people, they never experienced such types of coup. Nobody was in the street, no one newspaper, all television newspaper was blocked, all FM radios newspaper was blocked, all human rights activists was targeted, and the journalist was targeted. We thought we will be no more alive the next day.
There was no communication. So what we decided is we'd get together every day in some place, and then we'll see what we can do. So we are concerned about the security of the other people.
So we said that this was the final coup, the climax of the king's step, and from there onward there was autocratic, I would say that autocratic regime started.
He used methods that are clearly unacceptable. We had a state of emergency for 3 months. The telephone lines were cut, the landlines and the mobile lines. I don't exactly know how many people were detained, but I think the overall figure went to somewhere close to 1,500 or something like that at least.
The massive repression. Then of course the civil society came in, they objected, like I was in commission still as a commissioner. So I quit the commission because I issued a statement criticizing the king, and that made me difficult to stay here. Even my life was threatened by the army people. So then I left the country.
There was this report from a well-placed source that I was one of the 5 human rights activists in Nepal that the army wanted to kill.
During that period of violence and repression, hundreds of civil society and political party leaders were arrested. Human rights defenders have carried on their work, monitoring and denouncing abuses at the risk of their lives.
All the fundamental rights of people were suspended, and the activities of human rights defenders were banned. INSEC was broadcasting human rights education program. That program was also highly censored. Because of this censorship, we have to stop this program about 6 months.
We forget all our misunderstanding between the human rights activists. We forget our small things within the organization. We became together than the previous times, and our target was so clear. We have to fight against the coup.
My understanding is that the royal coup was actually it was a logical continuation of a master plan. Big plan the king had that he would take the power, whatever power he can get. In the absence of parliament, in the absence of feasible elections, the parties forgot to look down. They forgot to look at the people. They looked up. They looked at the king.
The police and even the army and the plainclothes army men, policemen had come to Kokap about 5-6 times looking for me. But we were operating from outside Kokap. And we established a Nepal Democracy Desk. That was because there were no newspapers and stuff like that. We gathered all the information we could from our own sources and wrote up bulletins about the international response, about who is arrested, who is not. We knew it was getting really tough to operate from inside Nepal because there were army men everywhere and there would be strict checks. So what we decided to do was very secretly with some ambassadors there, that me and my wife, we put on different clothes and put on caps, and then we stayed, we took a diplomatic vehicle to the border of India and then crossed over without any bags, crossed over the rickshaw, pretending that we were just, the locals going to the other side to buy vegetable or something like that. I felt very free at that time because it was, only after coming out of the country that sometimes you feel, what was happening to you inside the country. You feel all of a sudden like, you're free like this, From Delhi, we could call people without the fear of being arrested. Even if they tapped our phones, it didn't matter. Yeah? Or people could come to a different place, the public telephone booth, and then they could call us. Yeah? So we got the information, and we had established a website called International Nepal Solidarity Network. In the INSN websites and the emails that we knew that had come from the Royal Nepal Army people, I guessed that. Yeah? Very easy to tell that. They're saying, okay, let you come back to Nepal, speak whatever you want outside, but let you come back to Nepal, then we'll see. So I got these sorts of emails, but I was not worried, it was a joke. So I also sent back emails, like nice emails saying, when I come back to Nepal, maybe we could talk in a different, we would be talking in a different way. You would be much more polite by then.
Upcoming human rights defender.
I coordinated quite a lot of the media persons, the international media, including people from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and as well as the Indian media here. We heard about the vigilante violence in central Tarai, and it was very difficult for the people, the human rights defenders or the journalists from inside Nepal to go and investigate that. So what we did, we asked the foreign journalists, you are not going to be under risk. We have this information. Please go and investigate and publicize that.
And also Maoist leaders were taking shelter in India, So they were there. So it was easy for our leaders to go there. And we human rights defender and civil society people were trying to facilitate the meeting. Like I created a place which was called Nepal Center.
And also after 6 months there was like very visible resistance inside Nepal.
The everyday life was difficult. There was no electricity, no gas, for cars, more difficult to get food. Then you get the curfews and people were really getting fed up. Life was getting difficult. I don't think anyone was happy. And it was very clear to everyone that the king's government had not been able to improve the situation in the country. It was actually getting worse.
The Maoist and the 7 political party, they did a historical agreement in 2005 November, in November 2005. After this agreement, the Nepali people, they feel so safety. There will be the future for Nepal.
The first demonstrations, police used excessive force. And actually, deliberately or by accident killed people. Now these people were very soon turned into martyrs. And using excessive force against peaceful demonstrations where you have women and children and men without bamboo sticks or bricks in their hands, and this was all published widely in the newspapers. And it increased the anger towards the administration, towards the king's government and towards the police. Thirdly, women. The front lines, they would be full of women. I didn't expect that. And I think it sort of added to the seriousness of the movement. Fourthly, the fourth thing, and it's not by any means the least important thing, is that it was started, I think the Jan Andolan was started and pushed forward through professional organizations. Federation of Nepalese Journalists, Nepal Bar Association, associations for teachers, for engineers, for doctors. They came to the street, basically non-political professional organizations stood against the government.
It was unique for anywhere in the world, I would say. Tens of thousands of people, not only in Kathmandu but rural areas. So the movement was successful in that way, in a big way. So the army and monarchy were slowly separated, and the king did not have the political network at the grassroots. He was just relying on the army, and once that link between him and the army was, made weak, then he crumbled like a house of cards within a few days.
Nepal is the one country who deal such types of conflict very peacefully. Within certain hour, we did agreement between Maoist and government peacefully, without any international intervention. We see, if you look the other part of the world, like Sri Lanka and Northern Ireland and Guatemala, El Salvador, South Africa, Aceh, everywhere in the world, there was a huge international presence for mediation.
Because international support was already there. Somehow international community were convinced and they were ready to support. After I spoke in European Parliament also, we were very much encouraged. Then I came back and then I participated in the movement, and then after that I am staying here. in Nepal.
Many human rights organizations and civil societies organizations like trade union organizations, we were together. We formed one committee, Loktantra FR Samiti, and this committee mobilized all the these groups like different organizations to organize the to celebrate this Loktantra Day. This was the slogan, like as we can say in Nepali, Smaran Samiksha Khabardari.
So this is organized by civil society, and in one way we are celebrating our victory day. At the same time we are evaluating the 1 year, the achievements, shortcomings, and then we are just cautioning our leaders that they must fulfill their promise and the mandate of the people's movement, Loktantra, Loktantrik Andolan or Jan Andolan last year.
दोषीलाई कारबाही गर्न सरकार डराएछ झ्याम्म 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 राष्ट्रपति भवन प्रमोसन नारायण हिटी अब झ्याम्म 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 राष्ट्रपति भवन.
The killings have not really stopped. At a low level, there is low intensity conflict going on even now, and there is impunity against the Maoists who beat, threaten. Now they have to be accountable too. They have joined the government. They can't pretend that they are rebels, right?
During the conflict, before the conflict, after the conflict, crimes have been committed, and these crimes will have to be taken to court, and the guilty, if found guilty, they will have to be punished, regardless whether they are Maoists, whether they are in the Nepalese army, whether they are from anywhere. No matter what is the background, the law is the same for all of them, and it will have to be enforced. And there can be no longer the culture of impunity because it's ruining the morale of the country.
There should be debates about prosecuting Prachanda. There should be debates, discourse about prosecuting Girja. There should be discourse about obviously the king. Yeah, take him to the International Criminal Court, ad hoc tribunals, whatever. Yeah, but there's not much discourse, and people are saying like, it's a political issue. Let's solve it politically, which is, I mean, for the most part, you have to be practical, but especially for the grave human rights violations, you have to prosecute them and punish them according to the international standards of human rights.
The people of Nepal are now also expecting concrete results from the government in the struggle against impunity and structural changes regarding the multiple social discriminations in order to build a sustainable peace.